shit earlier, and they
This
keep
one's
playing
too
games
good.
like that. Bitch, you know that was $100. Talk to you how you doing this.
What is this?
I swear, he just dropped Pines 3. It's episode 157, Face Value Podcast.
This chop delete shit. I count so much dog shit in one night. Big Glock don't need a switch. Bust my neck down in life for rings. I spent 200 strips.
Yes, sir. Y'all already know what time it is, man. Face Value Podcast, episode 157. Unfortunately, I'm only here with half of my two best friends. Perry's at a family function he had to attend to show the love to his family, but he's with us in spirit.
He's in a nice tan suit right now.
Yeah, he's looking real business casual. But we got Nathan Jackson with us, Nady Jax.
What's going on?
And we got a super special guest today. We got our boy 8MATIKLOGAN in the building.
What's poppin', man? How you feeling?
Finally, man.
Yeah, finally.
I know. You know, supposed to been doing, but you know, we here now. So
Yeah,
It makes a lot of sense for the project to be out. So that was a good call to wait.
sure.
Because you knew you were about to drop. So you're like, oh, let's
Yeah.
just chill till that shit comes out.
Yo,
Just to get it out there, what's the Instagram, Twitter, all that shit so people know what to follow?
Instagram, Apple Music, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, all of it is 8MATIKLOGAN. Very simple, except Twitter is Logan Cage 8. That's the only thing that's pretty different than everything else is 8MATIKLOGAN.
Nice, yeah. And like I said, he just dropped a project that's on all DSPs, so go stream that. 1636 chapter 2, right? Chapter 2?
Yeah,
It's called?
the second chapter.
Second
but
chapter,
It's
yeah.
a great listen, man.
Yeah, super good
Thank you.
project. I want to get into a lot of the project and things you talk about on the project. But before we do that, just in case anyone's new to you, like brand new, you want to just give us a quick rundown of where you're from, how you grew up?
Yeah, so I'm from Chicago. I'm from the Southwest Side, Little Village. I bounced around a lot though, but like that's where the bulk of my like growing up was, so Little Village. Then I moved to Brighton Park. Then I moved to like Pilsen. So, but I've always been like all over the city, up north, out west, out south. The only place I really didn't like dabble in too much is over east because that's like way further from where I was at. But yeah, all of them neighborhoods, like Southwest Side, out south, up north, like been running around that shit since I was a shorty.
Oh, yeah.
And just spending so much time, like growing up in the city, and I feel like you still live out that way, like Pilsen, Bridgeport area. What have you seen personally, like change in those areas?
I mean, I be in Pilsen hella now for some reason. I don't know why I'm always in Pilsen.
I've heard it's super different.
Yeah, it is. Like growing up though, when I was a shorty, you wasn't just walking around Pilsen. Like now you can just walk around though,
Yeah.
and do whatever. Like you know what I'm saying? It's not bad anymore. That's probably the biggest difference I feel like is that it's super gentrified, super artistic and safer I should say. Obviously still Chicago, you could run into some shit anywhere, but for the most part, you know.
Yeah, what I like about Pilsen is even though people have been trying to gentrify it for so long, it's still held on to that artistic shit. There's tons of art going on there, tons of galleries, all that shit, which a lot of neighborhoods lose that when it gets gentrified. That's the first thing to go. Because artists can't afford to live in the community anymore.
I mean, do you really feel like it's actual gentrification?
They've been trying to gentrify Pilsen before even like Logan and shit. They actually just pushed back. Pilsen's like that was one of the neighborhoods that was like nah for so long.
You're not getting the Mexican people out of Pilsen ever. Yeah. And if you do, then I feel like
that's what I mean.
It loses the value of being Pilsen. Like you could still keep the art and all of that shit, but if it's not as culturally authentic, it lacks. You know what I'm saying? It's not as abundant and as vibrant as a community.
Yeah, and there's two sides to that as well, which one of it's kind of ugly. The people that are trying to develop it, they play that to their advantage. They're like, oh, this is like a super cultured neighborhood. Yeah. You should come over here. It's authentic. They use it as a selling point.
Yeah.
And which is like so fucking foul when you really think about it.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely cringe when I hear like certain people talk about Pilsen these days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know exactly what I mean.
Yeah,
no, for sure.
Yeah, that's where the listening party was at. That was sick though. That was a cool spot. Was that a recording studio where you had the listening party for the album?
Yeah, shout out my boy Tiger. He owns a studio, Jungle Lords. So the studio's actually downstairs. We were in like the lounge area. But yeah, dope ass spot right there on like I think 17th and Racine. Cool vibe, you know what I'm saying? And it was a success. That shit was so fucking dope, man. I'm so happy that we pulled it off and got together to have like a special moment for me in my career, you know, especially after like the journey's been so crazy. So
yeah, we're definitely going to get into all that. What I really liked about it too is that people were, because the project is very dense, and like I said, I really want to break down a lot of things about it. People were very respectful about treating it as actually intaking the project versus let me stand in this room and just hear the music playing.
yeah,
Because an album like that, you do got to digest a lot of that content. It's not just like, oh, let's vibe out real quick.
yeah.
So shout out everyone that was there because people were mad respectful of that and really took it in like the way it was supposed to be digested. So that's tight.
Definitely, and I appreciated that too. Like, and that's the kind of environment I wanted to create. That's why I put the little platform in the middle, like, you know, dim the lights, all of it. Like, I wanted it to be something very, you know, intimate and focus on the music. I didn't want people talking. I didn't want people, you know, wandering around mentally thinking about other stuff. Like, no, let's just listen to the music for an hour and, you know,
definitely.
have a moment.
And to get into the music too, I think this is a good segue because it's something I did want to talk to you about. On the album, you have a song called 360, which is basically about 360 deals. If you listen to that song, you can find out a lot of this stuff as well. But I kind of just want to get your opinion. Obviously, you signed a deal early on in life. What if you could pick any? I know it was overall seems like a negative experience. What could you say was beneficial, whether it was learning from it? What were like the positives and negatives of it that you saw?
I think, you know, at first when I was in it and, you know, right fresh out of it, I couldn't find a silver lining. Now I keep finding silver linings. I'm like, oh, like there's so much you can learn from it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it gave me an advantage in this industry, in this business, because it gave me real skin in the game. And I learned a lot of shit firsthand that, man, I ain't gonna lie to you, you can't even read that shit in books. You can't even watch a podcast or like take a course for it. You gotta actually just go do it, you know? And being in certain rooms around certain people, in these like climates, in these environments, I was just like a fly on the wall. And sometimes I was actually like, you know, the one getting exploited or the one that was, you know, being taken advantage of and whatever the case may be. But you learn from that if you're smart, you know what I'm saying? If you're aware enough to learn from that. And that's probably the biggest thing that I could take away is the experience that it's given me, because you can't get that shit nowhere else.
How did that whole situation come about?
The beginning or the end?
The beginning.
The beginning, I was independent for a long time, for like the first whole like 5 years of my career, and I was always turning down deals, from the beginning, like always turning down deals, bro. And I did an interview with my boy Jake Krez, and he reached out to me. He was like, "Yo, you know, this dude LPZ got a studio right here, and he wants to invite you through, come through, whatever, record, chop it up." And then I started building with them at ATS Studios, and they just had revamped the studio, rebuilt it, rebranded, all of that. And then, you know, I thought it was a good fit. I was so against signing prior to that, but I felt like because it was Chicago, that it kind of made more sense than signing like somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I signed to the studio first, and then in 2019, I signed with Hicko through ATS. So it was like
That wasn't even that long ago.
Like an imprint, yeah.
So do you think you'd be able to move the way you move now if you didn't go through that situation?
Nah, hell no.
So do you think it just depends on the artist if you should take an independent or a major or label route?
Yeah, everybody's different. You know, different strokes for different folks, and like, you know, what works for you might not work for me. You know what I'm saying? And so I've always been pretty open-minded. The thing with me is when I was signed for the majority or for the whole term of that agreement, for both agreements, I was very fucked up mentally and spiritually, all of that. Like, I was on drugs a lot. I was always drunk. I was always high. Like, I had no awareness. I was just coasting and, you know, just doing whatever, bro. It was so uncharacteristic of me. However, learning from that allowed me to, like, understand that just because that situation didn't work for me doesn't mean that I have to be anti-label or anti-executives or anti anything, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if you started dating, right, and the first girl was like a horrible experience, are you finna not date no more? You know what I'm saying?
True.
No, you finna go see, all right, you might be heartbroken. You might be like, you might have a sour taste in your mouth, but then you'll get over it and you'll be like, all right, it's time to go back out here and get active, you know?
Yeah. You know what would be better, though, and this applies to business situations and relationship situations, if people laid the cards out the way they were off rip. Because when you start dating is a great analogy. The first 3 months are like fake. Both people are wearing a facade.
I say the first year is all bullshit.
And then it starts to slowly trickle out who you really are. If you really laid that shit on the table off rip, you wouldn't waste time. It's about wasting so much time.
For sure. And here's another thing too, like, cause I was at first, when I first got out the deal, bro, I was pointing the finger at them so much. And now they're not completely, you know, devoid of fault. You know what I'm saying? Obviously there's blame on both sides. But I was very entrenched into a victim mindset. And it took me a while to understand that you can't get exploited unless you're susceptible to exploitation. They can't get you in a contract unless you sign it. They can't get you, you know, they can't do nothing to you if you don't allow them to do that to you. So it was my responsibility to be more diligent and to vet it better and to, you know, be smarter, be better. And so I understood that I had to take accountability and make sure that I learned from that to prevent it from ever happening again.
Yeah, man, taking ownership of your mistakes is key. You know?
Hell yeah.
That's how you actually learn. You know what I mean?
And you have to look at it objectively too. You have to be like, all right, this is my fault. This right here is my fault, and I have to own that shit.
And know where to place the blame. Not just all on you, not just all on them, but somewhere in the middle, you know, depending on the situation, I would say.
For sure.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to look at the situation when you're like knee deep in that shit.
Hell yeah.
And I mean, I'd like to get your opinion on this. Do you think that led to a lot of the stuff you were talking about on the album? Substances, you know, getting hella into Xanax and shit. Do you think the weird position where you didn't really know where you stood kind of played a part in that?
So when I first started, I was actually very level-headed. The first project I made, you know, I started when I was a shorty. I've been making music, putting out music for like over 10 years now. So I dropped out of school to be a rapper. And at the time, I was just smoking weed and drinking and shit like that. But when I started making my first mixtape, 1636, I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking. Well, I stopped smoking. I still drank a little bit, but not a lot. Then, so I was really level-headed, and I really had a similar vibe to this project, which is why this is the sequel to it. But then I started drifting, getting involved with drugs, because, you know, a lot of shit comes fast. You get views, you start doing shows. I sold out a couple venues, girls, you know, the whole nine. And at the time, bro, I didn't really want what came with it. Like, I was speaking about, my whole first album is about, like, it's very substantial music. It's about family. It's really personal. And then once I put it out and started to see, like, what came with it, you know, you get attention for sure, but there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And I was 19, bro. So I didn't really want to deal with no responsibility like that, especially, like, coming from where I come from, like, having a traumatic youth and not being able to really have a, you know, a healthy childhood. I just wanted to be a kid, bro. I wanted to go party, drink, go be with girls, you know, do all the frivolous shit. And so from that point on, I felt like I just started to drift. And, you know, one thing led to another, and you just start going. Like, you just start wandering off into nowhere land. And so I think with this project, I've rediscovered my creative essence and my core essence as a human being, as a person. I really got into spirituality. Like I told you off camera, you know, I quit drinking, I quit smoking, I quit everything, really. And so it allowed me to tap back into, like, my real self. And I was like, you know, I told myself, all right, this time around, I'm going to be candid, I'm going to be vulnerable. And I really don't give a fuck what anybody says or thinks, because I've overcome so much shit. An opinion don't fucking faze me. A word don't, you know what I'm saying? That don't hold no weight to me. I don't put no value into that. So, and like, I got so much love for the people that support me, because the album has been getting received so well. Like, I won't say no names. I kind of talk about it in Fahey Building too, but, like, recently I was talking to a fan. I'm not even a fan. I call them my supporters. I was talking to a supporter in my DMs, talking to him because he was contemplating suicide. And I sat there and I had a conversation with him, you know what I'm saying? And it's like shit like that really is the reason why I do this shit, you know what I'm saying? And that's the most fulfilling part, and that's what I'm searching for now. I don't really give a fuck about accolades or statistics, data, like an advance for a deal, like none of that shit. Like, can you make real impact? If you can make real impact and really touch people, then all the other shit's gonna come with it. At least that's the way I see it.
Was there, because I've seen that a lot, just, the little bit I've known you and just following you on Instagram, Eckhart Tolle, you tapping into that kind of shit, which is really, I've read, Power of Now, New Earth, all that shit. I've been into that for a long time because a while ago, early on in my life, I wanted to really figure out what ego was. I think I struggled with that. And what I did learn from a lot of those books is ego isn't the thing that you really think it is. There's a lot of misconceptions about what your ego actually is. But was there a specific moment that caused you to start looking into those things? So you don't really just find Eckhart. You got to be looking for that shit.
Yeah, no, I've really dove into like all types of spirituality and like philosophical books and just all type of dope, deep literature. And I'm like, I treat them like songs. Like there ain't no way I'm going to just read one of these books one time and then get to talking about it like I'm an expert. I keep reading it. Like there's books that I read once a year, you know what I'm saying? I'll probably do that shit for the rest of my life. I think the pivotal moment was being in a deal simultaneously while also, so being in a deal while simultaneously also being very dependent on Xanax and in and out the hospital and dealing with health issues. It was like I felt like I was getting hit from like multiple angles and I was at the lowest point of my life. And that kind of just like, you get to a point where you're so low, there's nowhere else to go but up, and that's just like where I was at. And I picked up a music business book and I started reading that and I started reading my contract and just told myself that, I'm gonna dig myself out of this hole. I put myself here, so I'm gonna dig myself out. And then after I seen how much the music business book, it's I think it's called Everything You Need to Know About the Music Business by Donald Passman. Once I realized how much that helped me, I was like, all right, I gotta go look for other books. And I just started reading anything.
Yeah, dude, my copies of like Power of Now are so highlighted because you need to revisit it because you'll forget it. Yeah. You're so quick to be in a moment and embrace something so hard, but you can forget it just as easily. You got to keep, it's like muscle memory. For sure. Like if you get really good at nollie flips or something, it's because you've done a million of them and your body remembers it. You can't do it one time and your body's just like, cool. Or your mind. Yeah. Your mind and your body are the same. Your mind is a muscle pretty much. For sure. You got to keep training it.
Even if you like, even if you do have like a moment of enlightenment or epiphany, you wake up the next day, if you stopped reading it, you wake up the next day and you're back into this physical world of instant gratification, of hyper speed, where everything is happening so fast and it's so easy to forget what you just had yesterday. Those moments are fleeting and it's up to you to keep going to that place and building on it. It's like momentum, and you can't just do that shit one time and think you got it all figured out.
Exactly. It's not going to change every night.
Exactly. That's so fascinating to me. Like these books hold so much power. Like what do you feel like the biggest lesson you learned out of the music business book?
I think it's really helped me understand the difference between, master recordings and publishing, composition and song recordings. But really the whole book is insightful. If you're in the music game in any capacity, you need to read that shit, period. And I had one dude, here's the thing, bro, with like rap, right, with hip hop, we're so ignorant to the music business side of it. We just want to rap. And most people that are like from the hood, like mostly like Latino and black kids that are just rapping, bro, they have no training for, fuck the business side. They have no training for music. It's all intuition. Like it's all intuitive. Mm-hmm. And what I realize is that the business side is specifically concocted in a way to confuse the fuck out of us. And so like, and exploit us to the maximum degree. So like I recommended the book to a homie of mine that raps, and he was like, do you have any, he read a little bit of it, he's like, do you have any books that are like for rappers? I'm like, bro, you're tweaking, that's for a rapper. You just don't understand the language. Because, and it's not your fault, but you need to try it, keep going, get disciplined and be, resilient, because what those words are in those words in those books are the same words that are gonna pop up in your contract. And so you need to understand, you think they're not talking about a rapper, but they're talking about anybody making music, So it really just helped me get familiar with the language, the verbiage that they use, and really dive into the concepts of like how they, break down publishing, break down masters, how to track the dollars, how these labels operate, different formulas to deals, and breaking down different types of clauses and terms and conditions. So it's really dope. He even dives into like the cinema aspect, sync licensing and all of that shit.
Oh wow, okay.
It's really dope, bro. Yeah. I've read it like 4 times, and I'm gonna read it every year too. It's I'm never gonna stop reading that shit. There's other music business books that I want to read too, but I have like my TBR pile is like 500 books, so I'm like trying to catch. I'm trying to read new books and read the old books, and
stay sharp.
Yeah, it's super time consuming because if you actually want to digest the content, reading takes a long ass time.
Yeah.
Because you can read a book mad quick, but that doesn't mean you're retaining any of it. And if you're going to spend your time, you should try to retain the information.
For sure.
Because like time is, to me, is the most valuable shit we have. So if I'm going to spend my time doing something, I'm trying to make or like get the most out of it.
No, for sure. And for me, that's my first go around for like a lot of these books. Like that book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Think and Grow Rich, The Power of Now, 48 Laws, The Art of Seduction, like all, even like some Jordan Peterson books. I just bought a bunch of fucking like I think Penguin Random House has this thing that they're doing where they like bought the rights to like the greatest ideas or some shit. Like it's a bunch of crazy ass like books like the Communist Manifesto, like all of these Nietzsche books and
I always wanted to read that.
The Art of War, War of Art, whatever.
I've read The Art of War like 4 times.
Really?
Yeah.
So I just bought a bunch of them. I'm gonna read the fuck out of those. But like, yeah, man, you can't just like think that you're gonna understand this shit so quick, bro. It takes time. And the first time I read them bitches, bro, I wasn't highlighting, I wasn't writing in the margins. I was just like, oh, these are dope, these are dope, these are dope. And then somebody asked me like, what's that book about? And I'm like, fuck, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I read the fuck out of it, but I don't know what that book is about.
Yeah, you don't know where to start or how to describe it.
That's why when people ask me to borrow my copies of that shit, I'm like, bro, that'd be kind of weird because my shit's mad highlighted.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean? Like, you got to just get your own copy. Yeah. I'll throw you the 13. You just go get it.
Yeah.
And I think it's cool, too, when people read those books because there's so many gems in there. And I think if you can regurgitate it in a way that are going to draw more people in, because at the end of the day, the first time I read Power of Now, I was floored. That shit made me realize so many things about myself, about life. And not to like ever lie, when I got to the back and saw Eckhart, I was like, Eckhart's a fucking dork, bro. I was like, so if other people read it and they can communicate it down the line, it might be taken a little more seriously. Because I was like, this dude is dropping this fucking knowledge.
But you see how important, you see how important the work is though, because Eckhart is all over the new Kendrick album. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, his shit, it's gems on gems.
For sure. And it's like you said, if you can communicate that message in a more simplified way to people that don't typically have access to that information or don't have access to the education to understand this sophisticated, like complicated language, you can be like a vessel for that message. You could be like the median right there. And I think that's dope. And that's something that I try to do. And I'm getting better with it, but I'm still fairly new to this shit. You could read this shit, but it's like until you're able. I read somewhere that like if you can't teach something to a 6-year-old, you don't know it. You know what I'm saying? You need to be able to dumb it down and get a kid to understand it, at least the basic concept of it. So that's what I try to do when people try to like discuss books that I've read. If I have a good understanding, I'll be like, all right, let's talk about it. Let me try to break something down for you. Because then in your head, you're like, oh shit, I do know that. Like, or this I don't know, and I probably should go reread that chapter or whatever.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's different types of intelligence, like emotional, street, book?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that comes with experience more than anything. You can't be street smart if you ain't never been in the trenches. You know what I'm saying? You could watch a bunch of movies and all of that shit, but you ain't never been there. So when you get put in a situation like that, you're gonna freeze up, or you know what I'm saying? Like it's just different. You're gonna tell on somebody, or and if you don't have no business acumen, there's no way you could. If you've never been in a business meeting or have taken care of any type of business, there's no way you can have any intellect in that field. So, that's why I try to insert myself in as many different like avenues and industries as possible. Even if I'm not active in it, I would like to know. You know what I'm saying? Like just so I'm not naive and ignorant to some of this shit, so I can have conversations with people that aren't like me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a thing as pure ignorance. Is when you really are just clueless about something. Like, I just don't know what you're talking about. On the new project, I feel like you really showed a ton of emotional intelligence, to be honest. To be able to speak about a lot of those subjects, be vulnerable. When do you think that came about where you felt okay to talk about those kind of things so openly?
I mean, I talked about a lot of that in my first project too. Talked about it. I think from like 2016 till up until this point, I suppressed it. I just didn't want to talk about it like that. And if I did, I was trying to do it in like a trendy way, like you know, over trap drums, over like
actually kind of dumb it down, like you were saying.
Yeah, dumb it down. And then I talk about that in one of the songs, and I'm like, bro, I'm tired of dumbing this shit down. Like, I'm gonna just give it to you how it is in my mind.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm gonna try to simplify it, maybe. But if not, it's not my responsibility. I'm not your fucking teacher, dude. Like, it's not my responsibility to teach you this shit. Hopefully, it's enticing enough to where you want to pursue that, where you want to look it up. And, you know, and I'm not saying the most sophisticated shit, but it's like, I'm just saying it as it is in my mind.
Yeah, maybe like giving them enough to where if they really want to tap into that, they can do their own research and really tap into themselves. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You know?
Kind of like throwing the alley-oop, honestly.
I can't even remember what song I said that in. I know it was one of them bitches.
With being so vulnerable about shit, people love to. I don't believe there's either or. People love to say there's masculine energy and feminine energy. I think energy is energy. I don't think any characteristics are represented by like being masculine or feminine. But do you think when you open yourself up like that on the album or just in life, you're losing any kind of masculine sense about yourself?
I think a big part of being a civilized human being is being able to understand that two people see differently. So like when I respect that you don't think that there's or believe that there's masculine and feminine energy. However, I do, but I don't see it as I view it as a spectrum more than like a dichotomy. You're not either masculine or feminine. You know, you can very much be both.
I feel like if anything, it's a Venn diagram.
Type
you know,
shit,
you can't. I don't think a certain characteristic needs to be pegged as like, oh, it's like a feminine characteristic. To me, I feel like we're all like humans, and if you have this characteristic, well, it's just a part of who you are. That's why I'm just saying I don't think there's
for sure.
I get both sides.
I don't feel like I've emasculated myself in any sense.
You can't be too much of either. You know what I mean?
There's people that are, though.
There's people that, I mean, I guess I said that wrong. I mean,
there's definitely people that are super, like, you know, one way, and they're like, like completely against the other shit. But like, I'm reading this book.
I totally said it the wrong way.
No, sorry, I'm reading this book right now by like Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's like I think he's a clinical psychologist. But he talks about order and chaos, masculine and femininity, and you know the different energies. Another book that's good about that is The Way of the Superior Man. And I just feel like, you know, that shit is very much real. Like, especially if you look at it as like the yin and yang and the capabilities of each. The capability of each individual energy, and then collectively what it embodies. And you know, the yin and yang has the black. I think is it a serpent or a snake? Black on one side, white on one side, and then there's still a white dot in the black section and a black dot in the white. So there's still that potentiality of the other, you know, the opposite within you. And then he talks about how like the key to life is walking the fine line, which is the middle, which separates both, and being able to live in that. And I think that that's dope. And you know, he really dives into order and chaos, and I guess order is metaphorically the masculine and chaos is metaphorically the feminine. But all chaos means is a lot of the world right now is chaotic, but all chaos really means is the potential for anything to happen. So there can be good chaos and bad chaos. You know what I'm saying? If you're out here living life, we're human beings, we're fragile, you know, there's a possibility you could die today. You could crash, you could fall off a building, you could do whatever, you could get shot. But there's also a potential that you could win the lottery. You could find the girl of your dreams. You could do, you know, there's so many good things that can happen. So that's the chaotic aspect is neither good or bad. It just simply is. And then order is like the structure, like, which I guess masculinity thrives more in because it's, you know, I think the world needs some type of structure. You can't just be out here with no laws or no rules, you know, like, but yeah, I'm just going off on a tangent now, but like.
Yeah, I mean, just to play off what you said, just some keywords, like sensitive and fragile, both those things to most people be like, oh, those are feminine energy things. When I don't think being fragile or sensitive is a feminine trait at all.
You fuck with 19 Keys?
Yeah.
So he just posted a video about this shit yesterday where he was like, you know, we think in the hood especially, we think you're being masculine when you're acting irrational and emotional and you just overpowering people, but that's really feminine energy. Like, that's chaotic. What's really masculine is to be able to sit down with somebody and hash it out and talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And control your emotions and not be so not so out of control, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think people tend to think like one is worse and one is better, but I don't think that at all. Like, I don't think that, you know, calling something feminine is bad. You know, I don't think that calling something masculine is bad. I just think it is what it is. Good and bad, it will always be subjective because we're human beings and we view things from our subjective scope. But objectively, it just is because, you know, like, let's say we have two families, right? And this family has a kid and this family has a kid. This kid robs this kid and this kid shoots the kid that's robbing him, right? And both families view it as, you wronged my son, you know? So subjectively, both feel like the other one is wrong. But objectively, it just is what it is because you can only view it as wrong if you're in this situation or that one, you know? Like, who the fuck is to really say who's right and who's wrong? This person felt right because they felt like they were defending themselves, even though they shot you.
Well, everything's perspective, for sure.
For sure.
And that's why I feel like it's crazy when people call people selfish, because it's insane to think you don't live in your own body and your own life and you're not selfish.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, we're brought up to look out for self. You have to. So like, that's another thing. People always look at, oh, being selfish is such a negative quality. You really should try to hold yourself down.
I mean, there's levels, though.
There is, but I think a lot of times people look too much for other people to hold themselves down when they should be more selfish, self-accountable, self-aware. Yeah. You know, when they're like,
there's a difference between being selfish and then a fucking raging narcissist. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think being selfish, I think you can be both. You can be selfish and a bit selfless. You can have empathy and still prioritize yourself.
Exactly. I was about to say balance.
You know, balance is the key to life, bro. Yeah. And, you know, people want to label it selfish because they're maybe possibly not capable of understanding or grasping the concept of prioritizing yourself. I don't think it's healthy to just be so selfless to where you sacrifice and compromise your integrity and your values and your livelihood for other people all the time, especially people that don't appreciate that shit.
Well, exactly. That shit will get abused. Detrimental to yourself.
And people will abuse it. People see that in people and just abuse the fuck out of them. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they're like, oh, I'm going to take advantage of you because you're like, you're overly giving.
Such a giver, yeah.
We've heard that story so many times. They're so nice, they're so giving, and people just take. Yeah. And then when you're left with nothing, who's going to hold you down? Because you're already in a fucked up, compromised position.
When you should have been the one holding yourself down in the first place.
No, for sure. I've read this book, Transcending the Levels of Consciousness. I think his name is David Hawkins, Dr. David Hawkins, something like that. But he has a very dope consciousness map at the beginning of the book, and he talks about like the different calibration levels of consciousness and how I think 50% of America calibrates at below 200 level, and like when you look at it, everything under 200 is like grief, fear, like all of these very low levels of consciousness. And what's crazy is that when you go to like the hood, that's what everybody's calibrating on, because there's lack of resources, there's so much death, which is loss. So everybody's fucking grieving. And it's hard to practice empathy. It's hard to be happy or be like any type of contribution to society when you're living in that world, when that's your reality. And so I think people, like we're talking about people that just give, they're just unaware of, they're probably calibrating at such low levels where they might look for that. Like they want somebody to give them. They want somebody to, or they're trying to fix people, or they're trying to help people that wouldn't help them, you know? And nobody's helping them. So it's like, once you get to like these certain levels where you're like, okay, you understand like, this is my life. I'm the only one accountable here. I'm the only one responsible. Like, you start to open up and see things differently, you know? I know that's how it was for me, especially with accountability. Like, I was always pointing my finger at people, bro. Like, always, like, oh, you did this to me. You did that to me. I blame you for this. And now somebody could be the reason that something happened, but it is your responsibility to get over that shit and to fix it, because nobody else is going to do that shit for you in your life, you know? Yeah,
when both people are playing the victim, nothing's going to come from it. No, you have to just stand up and be like, all right, this happened. Where do we go from here? What's the play? Everyone just wants like sympathy and shit.
And you might have to cut people off.
Like you said, I think you said it on one of the songs on the album, people just need to listen more, man. Everyone just wants to wait to talk. when you can learn some of the best things in life for the cost of nothing if you just listen or pay attention. The people that know the most are the people that just sit back and pay attention all the time. They're just in the cut, not really talking. If you actually talk to them, they know hell of shit. Yeah. Because they've just been taking everything in.
That's why I've been trying to be less vocal and more like critical thinking wise, you know? But so I just pulled up this map, and like the lowest levels of consciousness are like shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride. Like, and then it starts balancing out at courage and neutrality, willingness. But like, if you look at the lower levels, bro, like even somebody that's a selfless person that's just giving all the time, they might build up resentment and guilt and shame because nobody's gonna fucking do that for you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now I do a shit ton for you, but you don't reciprocate it. So now I have this resentment, this underlying resentment in me. And like, I can't even take it out on you, so I take it out on myself, and I'm depressed, and I'm sad, and I'm fucking drinking, and I'm smoking, and I'm indulging in all this shit that is like super frivolous and self-destructive, you know?
Well, I mean, that's why that's at an all-time high right now, because people don't know how to deal with it, and they internalize it, but they don't know how to internalize it, so they just deal with other things to help them cope, and then that shit snowballs. I mean, when you're going through like bad times, they're like, you should take these drugs. Those drugs make you feel some kind of way, and you're like, this isn't doing enough anymore. I'm going to drink and take these drugs. Mm-hmm. And then it just snowballs into the gnarliest fucking shit. Then you have to dig yourself out of the deepest hole. Yeah. When really it could have been met at the surface level instead of when you're fucking underground. You're like, all right, let me climb up the surface, then figure this shit out.
I talk about that in my book too. That's going to come out soon, Xanax Betrayal. I talk about it at the beginning where I talk about how I got started taking Xanax, and it was to like cope with like PTSD and anxiety, shit like that. But we're so ignorant, I didn't know like any of the repercussions. You know, I wasn't aware of what the fuck Xanax even was. I just know I took it one time and it worked for me. So it's like,
the shitty thing is about it, like just speaking from experience, when you take it that first time and it works, then you got to take a little bit more, then you got to take a little bit more, and it just becomes a fucking crazy thing. Then you feel weird without it. But the thing is, I don't know how weird you feel without it. I think if you know you didn't take it, you think you feel weird. And you can convince yourself of anything. Yeah. If you're like, oh, fuck, I feel weird right now. It's probably because I didn't take any Xanax. Then boom, it just becomes like a fucked up cycle. Oh, man. And then when I first started taking it, I'd be like, I won't drink if I took Xanax today. Because I was really taking it to deal with anxiety and shit. But then got to the point where I was like, well, I'm fucking taking this shit pretty much every day, so I'm just going to drink anyway.
Did you ever go through withdrawal?
I don't know, because I just keep taking it. Okay. So I'm not sure.
Oh, you're still taking it? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, I'm still taking it too.
Yeah.
So you got it prescribed?
It comes from a doctor, but not from my doctor.
You might have to cut that out. You might have to cut that out. No, so I get mine prescribed, but I'm like, I've been tapering off that shit for 4 years now.
It's hard, man.
I talk about it in Fahey Building. I say I've been
definitely
taking Xanax like 10 years. I've been trying to get off for like 4. Yeah. It's fucked up, man, and it's crazy because you don't really know that shit until you go through it. And like for me, at first I was like, yeah, I'm gonna just quit this shit. It's all psychological. And then I quit. And I went through fucking crazy ass withdrawal.
I heard the withdrawals from that shit.
You could die from
terrible.
it. They're worse than heroin.
You can't just cold turkey that shit. You gotta taper it off. Yeah.
It's crazy because like heroin's like the worst shit, but the benzo withdrawal is worse than anything. It's worse than heroin. It's worse than anything. Like you can convulse. You could go into like have all these seizures back to back. You could stop breathing. You could die. You can have heart attacks. Like all type of crazy shit, bro. So
heart attacks? God damn.
Well, because Xanax slows your heart down.
Oh, true.
That's like that's how it calms you. It like slows your heart, and it basically slows your like whole receptive shit down. That's what calms you.
It works on your central nervous system and in your brain receptors. Like so, it's crazy. It shouldn't even be a real fucking thing. Honestly, it should only be. I know a lot about it now because I fucking wrote a book about this shit. But like at first, I didn't know none of this shit. But that shit should only be used as like a last resort for like an emergency case, or like they use it for surgeries.
Mm-hmm. You know? When you come out of like a crazy major surgery.
Yeah, like a general anesthetic or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to get into the hot shit of the week. This song kind of encompasses a lot of the things we've touched on in the first part of the pod. This is off the new project. It's called The City is Crying. Check it out on all DSPs.
Yeah. The city is crying, the kids is dying, it feel like nobody care. Blood in the streets, can't even sleep, it's gunshots in the air. Chief of police, just get on the news and give us the same old speech. The mayor act like she don't know, I guess it's murder she wrote. The city is crying, The kids is dying and feel like nobody care. Blood in the streets, can't even sleep. It's gunshots in the air. Chief of police, get on the news and give us the same old speech. The mayor act like she don't know. I guess it's murder she wrote. The jails are full, the morgue is full, but they won't invest in the schools. The hospitals filled, the coffins is filled, and they keep on blaming drill. But this here deeper than that. It's way deeper than rap. We had 1,000 homicides for Lil Durk ever recorded a track. For Keith ever said bang. We was infested with gangs. You under the 6, you under the 5. To me all that shit is the same. Cause really we under the spell. They love that we killing ourselves. They love how we go on the internet talking about murders and telling ourselves. They gon' hit you with the Rico. I hope you paid in full. Summertime, it get real bloody. I see red like I play for the Bulls. When I wake up, I pray for the youth. They misguided, they growing up violently. Catch a case and they take you to court. No, the judge ain't showing remorse. They gon' bury you under the cell. In my city, we living in hell. You get booked and your homies forget about you. One of them probably sleep with your girl. They won't put up no money for bail. And they probably won't send you no mail. I'm sorry to tell you, it wasn't worth it. If we want change, we gotta start working. The city is crying, the kids is dying and feel like nobody care. Blood in the streets, can't even sleep. It's gunshots in the air. Chief of police, get on the news and give us the same old speech. The mayor act like she don't know. I guess it's murder she wrote. The city is crying, the kids is dying and feel like nobody care. Blood in the streets, can't even sleep. It's gunshots in the air. Chief of police, get on the news and give us the same old speech. The mayor act like she don't know. I guess it's murder she wrote.
All right, yeah, so that was The City is Crying, touches on a lot of things going on in Chicago, but obviously it's not the only city going through similar situations. So tap into that. It's on the album. It's kind of in theme with a lot of the album, which is what I wanted to talk to you about a little bit. A song like Vroom is basically like you could play that at a show. People get like turned up to it. You're clearly capable of making those songs. What kind of made you swing the ratio way more to a dense side of things?
So when I was signed, they wanted me making club music and shit like that, and I could do it. You know, I come from that world, so I could make trap music. I could do club music, like clearly. I think that's the easiest type of rap music to make, even though it isn't easy. But I think it's the most easiest if you're a skilled artist to make that shit. I think I wanted something more challenging and more meaningful, so I decided to, you know, put real substance into it, make it more of a experience from a intellectual standpoint as opposed to just, you know, because I don't smoke or drink anymore, so it's hard for me to just like a song because I'm high or like a song because I'm drunk, and I used to do that all the time.
Yeah,
like,
you're really taking that shit in now.
Yeah, you know, so I'm like, and I can still appreciate the trap shit. I love Future, I love Thug, I love like all the trap shit, bro. I love it. I love all the club shit too. I like girls, you know, I like when girls dance. I like when people are turned up having a good time, but for me, it's like individually, personally, what do I want to do? You know, what feels right for me? And that just felt right for me, like, especially now that I'm producing and engineering my shit myself. So, like, I was like, all right, let me try to make some, like, super dope shit. And, like, let me keep it as authentic as possible in terms of emotions and vulnerability.
Yeah, on the album, too, you speak about relationships a lot, heartbreak, going through things like that. Was that based off one situation or takeaways from multiple situations?
I mean, I haven't been in a relationship in 10 years. So, like, I just been out here, you know.
Those are relationships. They're just not.
They're just not
they're
serious.
Committed ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Any interactions you have with humans they're little relationships.
For sure. Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that. So I have like.
Like I've been in a bunch of relationships.
No. So I'm getting better with commitment and trust. I'm
better than people.
But I had like some bad experiences early on, and it kind of fucked me up. So I just pull inspiration from all the interactions that I have with women and girls, you know, like from when I was a shorty, you know. I still pull from like girls I used to mess with like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. Like, cause I'll be thinking back like, damn, that shit kind of was bogus. All right,
yeah, I mean,
say less, I'm finna talk about that shit.
Hindsight's a motherfucker, you know, like that shit is clear. You're like, oh man. Cause you be thinking like you were in the right the whole time for years. And you're like, yeah, I was kind of fucking
No, I'm working on a whole album that's dedicated toward that type of energy, like more about like heartbreak and love and shit like that. Because that is very much a part of me. I know this album was a lot more about like awareness and drugs and the city and shit like that, and just like other real life stuff. But I think fundamentally I'm a very intimate person, a very loving person. I crave intimacy. I crave, love and a woman's touch and shit. And the fact that I've deprived myself of that due to issues that are, in me, kind of doesn't sit well with me now where I'm at in my life. And so I want to get a lot of that shit off my chest, and I kind of want to bury those hatchets, get rid of all that shit and kind of start fresh. So I feel like I'm ready emotionally to do that. If
you don't do that shit, you can never enter another thing with like clear eyes, like a clear vision, because it's still just gonna be clouding your vision no matter what. A lot of people like to say they've moved on because it doesn't fuck their life up actively. But unless you really deal with the shit, you haven't moved on from it. Yeah. And you're just going to carry it on from situation to situation.
You got to heal. Or like you said, it's just baggage, bro.
Yeah, it's just going to haunt you randomly.
You'll be taking it out in situations you don't even realize. And it's some shit you just haven't dealt with. And you're like, why am I being like this? And if you really break it down, it's because of some shit from way back in the day.
And it'd be super irrational, bro. And you be seeing the shit that nobody else sees. Like, you're making shit up damn near. And it's like, fuck, dude, that shit. When you like have an epiphany and you have that moment where you're like, damn, I was just tweaking. You're like, damn, I feel like shit because I was just tweaking on somebody who is really, like, had nothing to do with any of it.
Yeah, definitely. You feel stupid. But the biggest thing is to find that place where even if it does happen, to own it and be like, yeah, I was tripping. Yeah. Because a lot of times you'll just try to wait till it like clears, the air clears, and you're like, oh, we good. When really you could be like, yo, I was on bullshit.
No, some stuff has to be addressed. Another thing too is like self-sabotage is real. And like when you have like traumatic or really like bad experiences with women or whatever you're interested in, any type of relationship, you kind of subconsciously put yourself in other situations to get hurt or sabotage anything that might be good, shit like that, where it's like if you don't heal, bro, you're going to continue to repeat these cycles and these patterns, and you might not even be knowing you're doing it, but you are intentionally doing it.
Yeah, if you feel wronged from a situation and you haven't dealt with it, you straight up won't let someone like love you and shit. You will push it away so hard, but you won't actively be like, no, don't fuck with me. You'll be so bogus with your actions that you're just pushing the people away because you just need to deal with the original like root cause, when a lot of people just won't ever do that. So
that's why a lot of good people get cheated on too, is like they think it's them, but it really is the person that's doing the cheating. Like they got some shit fundamentally wrong with them. Like they're out here, they're just fucked up internally.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A lot of that shit is insecurity too.
Yeah.
Dude, I've seen that. Go ahead.
The need to feel wanted and accepted by as many people as possible.
Yeah, because it became this social thing where it's like lit if you be getting hella like, women or men, whatever you do. It's like why did that become a standard of like hierarchy? Like, oh, like I obtain more sexual meetings than you do. It's like, all right.
And when you
encounters. Oh, no way.
No, for sure.
You gave it up on those sexual meetings on House of Pain. I heard that shit.
Oh, yeah, no, man, see?
My man used the word semen in the first 30 seconds. I've been waiting to talk to you about that shit.
It was crazy, man.
He gave it up.
No, that's a crazy song, man. And
hell yeah.
No, that's what the label wanted me to make, so I made it,
It's a good one.
And it's still authentic to me.
Hell
At the time, I was just doing like bro, like, it's a lot of this shit is out there for real. But like for me, bro, I've been doing crazy shit since I was a shorty. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. Like, so. But as I get older, I'm more like, I'm more conscious of the fact that shit is not cool. Like, to me, at least, I'm like, yo, I gotta chill, bro. Like, cause this shit is stupid. Especially when you start diving into spirituality and becoming, awakened. You're like, sex demons are real. Sex transmutation is real. transferring trauma is real. The battery effect is real. Like, a lot of this shit is real. And then you wonder why you have sex with a girl that you just met and you don't even want to lay next to her. You don't even want to chill with her. You feel like shit. You know, it's like, because that shit is real, bro. You know? Like, that's not just some, we like to think, especially in today's day, where it's like just a casual thing to just fuck people. And it can be for some people. Yeah. But when you start climbing up the enlightenment ladder, that shit sometimes bothers you. Yeah,
for sure. And it's even, you don't have to be fully like tapped into the enlightenment to just really step back and realize when you have that kind of engagement with someone, it's a pretty heavy connection exchange. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You're giving really, up a lot.
That's the closest you can get to another person.
It's very vulnerable.
You're fucking, connecting yourself. You know what I mean?
Plugging in.
Yeah.
But that's why a lot of those people that are, a lot of people that do that shit are like go have a conversation with them. They're like a little bit like off, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, I know people that are like really just be fucking anybody, and they're like, they're all over the place, bro. You know?
Yeah, I mean, those are those moments too, though, when
like that's all they have going for them is that.
That's some people's like whole mission.
For sure.
To see they can run it up. It's like, bro, it's not that hard to run it up. Like, you're not playing like the hardest game in the world.
There's billions of people.
Yes, exactly. And those are the same people that'll be super embarrassed by people they clapped when they actually like talk to them. Because like, oh my God, it's like, yeah, you did that shit.
Yeah,
you know? That's how you feel weird.
No, for sure. That's why you feel like that, bro. That shit is very valid, and you might be sitting here, I wonder why I feel like that, bro. Come on, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's obvious. While I'm thinking about it, because you were talking about doing wild shit when you were a shorty, when we had Sko on the pod, and I want to get this from you so we get the right context. What was the actual story around you dropping out of school to rap? Was it a crazy story? He told us some shit, and I can't really remember the whole thing. But were you just like one day like fuck school, I'm gonna rap or some shit?
You were wearing this school shirt in the video or something.
Yeah, what's the story? The story behind that?
So I've been making music since I was like 12, bro, and just like fucking around. When I got to high school, my OG put me in Catholic school for the first time. I grew up in CPS, you know, so I went to Catholic school, and I'm like, this shit is like a different world. Like, this shit is crazy. And then they asked me to leave after my sophomore year. So I went to another Catholic school. They kicked me out after like 2 months. And that's when I was walking around school with like, I had weed in my fucking underwear. I was selling weed in school and shit. Like, I talk about that in one song too. I think Different Route, where I was like, principal called me downstairs, 12 in the room, and they trying to find where. Too late, I done sold it all. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I was selling weed in school and shit. It kicked me out. I had like a 0.08 GPA. It was bogus. Then I went back to CPS. And then I was like, all right, I'm finna get my life together, because I was tweaking. Like, when I took my, what is it called, the SAT?
Yeah.
When I took that, bro, I didn't even read any questions. I just drew a line with the Scantron. Just drew a line, and we had a bottle of Grey Goose in the room with us, the classroom. We were just passing around a bottle of Grey Goose. It was crazy, bro. I went to a bunch of schools, and then I went back to De La Salle, and they kicked me out because I dropped a music video where I was smoking weed. And then I went back to Wells. It's a crazy journey. I went back to Wells, and I was there for like 2 weeks, and I was like, you know what? I just walked out, bro. I was like, I raised my hand. I was like, yo, could I go to the bathroom? They were like, yeah, take the hall pass. I was like, I'm not finna need that shit. And I just...
Why'd you even bother asking?
Because part of me was contemplating it still. Part of me was like, you know... part of me was like, you know, do I really want to do it? But once I hit the hallway, I just walked down the stairs and walked right out the door. Never went back. I got into my little 2-door Cavalier and drove to the Trap funeral home that we had.
I mean, so now probably 10 years later, how you feel about that decision?
The intellectual in me wishes I would have taken school a little more serious. Never applied myself. I always was smart as fuck, though. I felt like I didn't need that shit. I felt like I was a little bit more advanced than my peers, and the grade didn't reflect that. Like, I was in school with 30, 40,000 views. I felt like that was more of a representation of my advancement than, you know, a grade. Like, I'm already in my career, you know? There's people that are still 4 years into college, don't know what they want to do. So I felt like I found my passion. Yeah, I felt like for me, dropping out was the route to go at the time. it also helped helped catapult my career because of all the controversy that goes around with a kid dropping out. I mean, Kanye's whole thing was college dropout, you know, and I dropped out of high school. So it's like people definitely talked about it. It allowed like this like mystique and notoriety to grow. But now as an adult, I'm like, bro, I should have just took that shit serious, because like you see a lot of artists go to college. A lot of artists are in college and their music is growing because there's like 5,000 people at their school, 10,000 people at their school. So like, but the good thing is that I went to so many high schools that I had a very vast network. I was always talking to people. I was always, you know, fucking with girls, had a bunch of friends, you know, all of that. So, and we was on the outside of school, like the street shit, we was heavily like doing all type of crazy shit, throwing parties, doing all the other shit as well. So, but yeah, I just dropped out, bro. I was like, fuck that shit, fuck school, be a rapper.
Yeah, I think a lot of that shit too, though, if you continue on, the people that are like making music and they're in college, really what it is benefiting them is experiences. But you can get experiences anywhere.
That's another thing too. For me, I didn't feel like I had to do any more school because, bro, I had a traumatic ass childhood. I had a lot of life experience. So like, and it was reflected in my music, like, you know, and I felt like I was more mature than a lot of people in advance because I dealt with a lot of shit. Like, you know, when my pops got booked, I dealt with a lot of shit, you know, like as a little boy. And so I'm going to school with kids that never been through nothing, and it's like they just not on my level, you know what I'm saying, in terms of experience. And then, you know, people dying and all type of shit, you know. It just didn't feel like it was serving me at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at that and try to take it seriously when hyper serious shit's happening all around you.
Yeah.
When you're like, man, this biology class ain't hitting as serious as all this other shit in my life.
No, like they just took my pops and you want me to sit here?
Yeah,
like,
and learn about chemistry and shit.
I don't give a fuck
the periodic table. You're like, bruh, like I got real life shit to go home to.
Like I wasn't in class yesterday because I was at a federal court hearing, bro.
Exactly.
The fuck am I doing in this class? You know what I'm saying? Like,
and that's the thing about like education shit too, is, and there's no fault because I don't have a better plan, but when there's 30, 40 people, you can't teach everyone the same and respect everyone's like level of where they're at.
Exactly.
So just even outside of what you have in your personal life, if you are ahead intellectually, it just stifles you because you do have to wait. But you can't expect them to accelerate it for you because there's 35 other people there.
For sure.
So
it's very
flawed.
Yeah. I couldn't be a teacher. I couldn't design a school system. Like that shit is difficult. It's not easy.
And that's why I opened with, I don't have a better plan, but I just know that plan is flawed. But also no one's paying me to come up with a better plan. Yeah. If I got a year to think about it, I might be able to come up with some shit.
And some bread, right?
Yeah, I need a bunch of bread.
Sure.
And while we're talking about school and shit too, I do want to, we touched on it more off mic than on. Can you take us through what you're trying to do with this book you're trying to put out?
Yeah, so for Xanax Betrayal, it's been a journey, like making it. I started writing it during the pandemic. I had the idea in 2019, but I started writing it in the pandemic when I was going through some more health shit. Cause like I thought maybe I wouldn't be able to rap. So I was like, all right, I gotta just tell my story this way. So like, and it ended up turning into a book for real. And I just wanted to be a crutch for people that have walked similar paths to like me, you know. If I could make something that could be there for somebody, because I didn't have nobody there for me that really understood me. And then hopefully it could be a frame of reference for people that have someone that they love or care about that's going through it, so that they could somehow look into their world, you know, and not be so blind to it. But yeah, I mean, you look at something like during 2020, during the pandemic, 91 million prescriptions for benzos were written. Like, that's insane, bro. Especially when we was just talking about the magnitude of those drugs, bro. Like, these psychiatrists, I've been blessed recently to have some good psychiatrists. The first one fucked me over really bad and was a horrible experience, which is why I ended up having to get so many fucking drugs off the street. But these psych doctors really don't know for real, bro. Like, you can't know until you actually do it. Like, I want to tell them, bro, I want you to take Xanax for a year and then come back and let's have a conversation. Mm-hmm. You won't do it because you're not fucking stupid. Nobody that knows anything about it would do that shit, bro, unless it was like you went through like a tragic life thing and you had a severe injury and you needed to like take it. But like 91 million prescriptions is insane, bro, and it's to deal with a very real thing like a pandemic, which is not clinical depression. It's not panic disorder that you've had your whole life. It's something that has happened in the moment, and you're treating it with these drugs that aren't momentarily, you know?
Yeah, those drugs will be with you for your life unless you address that shit, like, super hard.
You're changing the trajectory of people's lives, bro. And that shit ain't cool. To me, that shit ain't cool. And, like, motherfuckers is getting locked up for selling drugs, bro, and these pharmaceutical companies is raking in billions, bro, trillions of dollars, bro, exploiting the fuck out of people. Like, me and Jimmy was talking in the car, like, that it's common Western practice to treat symptoms instead of the root cause. Like, they don't give a fuck what's really wrong with you. Like, I was just talking to my psychiatrist. I'm like, yo, I don't want to be on no drugs. Like, I don't want to be on any of this shit. You keep saying, you know, oh, take this blood pressure medication to help you with this, to help you with that. Like, bro, I don't have no problems with my blood pressure. You say it also has an anti-anxiety effect. That's cool, but I'm going to deal with this shit regularly because you're giving people antidepressants, SSRIs, you're giving people benzos, you're giving people opioids and shit like that to treat symptoms when really, like, there's so much underlying shit that could be the cause of that. Like, maybe this person isn't clinically depressed. Maybe the person that they love more than anything just died. Maybe they lost everything, you know? Maybe that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not so fucking surface level.
Yeah, but if you get to the root cause and get rid of it, then those people they can't serve you anymore.
They don't have a job.
Exactly. So they don't want to get to the root cause. Sure. They want to play games and try to, like,
that's so fucking
put Band-Aid. Let's put a Band-Aid here now. Oh, let's move over here now. Instead of, a lot of times, I think the people in these positions are far from dumb. They're playing a game with you. They're like, all right, let's keep you here. Let's keep you okay enough that you have to keep coming back.
And it's like you said, bro, these people have just went to school for 10 years. They've dedicated their whole life to this field, and they're like, what? So now integrity matters? Now ethics matters? Like, no. No, they're in this shit, bro. There ain't no plan B for them either. So I get it. I understand it. I just don't think it's right. And I feel like y'all don't feel like it's right either. Nah, that shit is goofy. But, like, even with antidepressants and SSRIs, like, understanding, because I had to do a lot of research to write a fucking book, you know. Obviously, I didn't go to school like these people. I didn't go to medical school, but I have real experience and I did a lot of research. So it's like understanding how these drugs work in the brain and with the serotonin levels and shit and how these neurons communicate with each other. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yo, you're really fucking people's brains up. Like, I don't know if you guys know what medically, well, my situation was medically induced, but there's this thing called akathisia that's, like, super fucking crazy, bro. It's like, there's all types of different fake names that they try to use to disguise what it is, but it's all akathisia. And it's like, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. There's, I think there's dyskinesia. There's all type of these fucking like, illnesses or conditions that come from being a byproduct of taking drugs or withdrawing from drugs mostly. And when I got it, I got a drug injected in me in the emergency room that my body, I had an adverse effect to it. And it gave me medically induced akathisia. And, bro, I'm talking about, I thought I was having a seizure and a heart attack at the same time. I couldn't fucking stop moving. I was spinning in this fucking circle, like, for 20 minutes, bro. They started injecting all type of other drugs into me. Then my heart stopped, like, not stopped, but it went, like, really slow. Then it sped up. I was having, like, severe heart palpitations. I was going in and out of consciousness. Couldn't even recognize my family that was in the room. I'm looking at them, and in my mind, I'm like, who the fuck are these people? And the akathisia is just like a very intense state of restlessness. Like, you can't stop moving. You can't stop moving your legs. You're twitching. Like, it's really crazy. And I joined, like, some forums and shit, like, you know, internet communities and shit with people that are, like, on the road to recovery and all type of other stuff. And they talk about it a lot, and it's, like, a very prevalent thing. And amongst people that have been on SSRIs, antidepressants, or benzos, it's like akathisia is very real. And a lot of people have to live the rest of their life with that shit. And it's an inconvenience to your life, bro. You're not normal anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're fucking twitching, you're moving all crazy, you can't sit still. Like, it's really fucked up, bro. And they just pass it off as, like, there's, like, so many different names they call it. Restlessness, all type of other shit, bro.
Yeah, it's just ways to normalize it when that shit shouldn't be normalized at all.
Hell
They're like, no,
no,
that's just part of the thing. You're like, well, I don't really want to do this thing.
Or, like, suicidal ideation is a side effect. Like, bro, maybe you shouldn't be giving this drug to somebody.
Right, yeah, and even if that happened in 1 out of 2,000 cases, it's still something that could happen.
So I was
just like, dog.
In that book, Transcending the Levels of Consciousness, he talks about a theory or a concept, and I kind of quoted it in the book because I'm still indifferent about it. But he talks about, like, how some people are so depressed that they don't even have the energy to kill themselves. So they commit passive suicide by like not eating, by treating their body poorly, by neglecting their health. And
that's fucking dark.
But he talks about how some of these drugs, SSRIs, it's a misconception, he says, that some of these drugs will give a person that's severely depressed a little bit or enough energy to actually kill themselves. To like, you know, you get a little bit better to where you can actually go through with it. And so it's just like these really deep concepts that I've been reading on. And I'm just like, yo, this shit is fucking crazy. Like, you know?
Yeah, it's almost weird. I think that's where the saying ignorance is bliss comes from. Because if you're ignorant to shit, it's easier to move through things. When you educate yourself, it almost like fucks your mind up even more. Because when you become aware or more in the know, you're just like, man, this is really ugly. But if you like distance yourself and just turn a blind eye to it, things are easier for people to cope with. And I think that's why most people just try to not. They're like, no, I'm just going to be over here, act like I don't know shit.
It's not easy, bro. It's difficult to try to be better every day. It's difficult to try to improve.
Because you bring in new challenges. Because you're like, oh, fuck, I just learned this. Because a lot of times you'll learn something about yourself in those things.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, fuck. Like, I'm definitely a victim of this, and I've done this. This is a real thing because I've experienced this. When before you didn't know what it was. You're just like, oh, I did something, I don't know. But when you learn about it and the characteristics of those things.
Hey, Jimmy, what's the line that I said in the song?
In Reflection?
Yeah. They say ignorance is bliss, but I'll never know.
Bar. Yeah, ignorance. They say ignorance is bliss, but I'll never know.
Yeah, I freestyled that verse, and when I rapped that, I was like, yo, that's a dope ass bar, and I was like,
yeah, for sure.
No, that shit was super. There's so much depth into that line, and I was like, I stopped recording. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, damn, they say ignorance is bliss, but I'll never know. And I'm like, it's like a self-realization and an admission. Like, I admit, you know, sometimes that I am ignorant. I'm admitting it right now by saying that ignorance is bliss and I'll never know. I'm telling you that I know ignorance is bliss, but I don't know enough to understand that I'm ignorant. You know what I'm saying? So it's like shit like that, bro. I'll be like,
yeah, it's like a triple entendre.
Yeah, that's
like,
cool.
Yeah, that shit definitely.
I'm like giving off that sense of like, I'm not ignorant, you know what I'm saying? I can't possibly be ignorant, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, it's so deep, and I fucked with that shit, and the fact that I freestyled it was really what blew the fuck out of me.
Well, that just means it was on your mind. You know, that was just right there on the tip of your tongue type shit. Yeah. When you're not searching for that, it's right there. It's clear that you could write songs, which to me are poetry in a sense, but are you a good actual grammatic writer, or are you going to hire like an editor to go through the shit?
So I'm editing it right now.
Like personally?
So I can make sure that my ideas are articulated the way I would like them to, but I'm definitely going to hire a professional editor and formatter. Like, I can't, you know what I'm saying? There's people that dedicate their whole life to that shit, so.
Yeah, because we spend so much of our life communicating via like text and shit. If I had to handwrite a long format thing, my punctuation would be so fucked up.
I definitely lost touch.
Yeah. Run-on sentences like a motherfucker. Like, is this one thought? I'm like, yeah, that's one thought.
What's crazy though is that in school I was really fucking smart, and I was really good at like English and math and shit like that.
Oh yeah.
Which is why I love the business side, and like I'm doing everything myself in terms of like the numbers part of the whole brand. But the English side of it too, I was really fucking gifted with words in English, to the point where I became cocky and I was like, I don't gotta care about this shit anymore. So obviously I'm not where I probably could be, but I do value that shit. Like, but there's times where I'm like, bro, does a comma go here?
Yeah, for sure. Because it's just like, I don't know. And the way we speak now is so like broken down that you could put a comma after every word.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy too is I be reading these fucking super deep books, bro, and like super sophisticated books. And sometimes I get to a part and I'm just like, really, bro? I'm like, why did you just give me 100-word sentence?
I'm saying this one thought. I be getting long thoughts.
I'm like,
yeah, you need
dude.
a semicolon or some shit. But that's where I would have to have someone edit it, because I'd be like, nah, I'll just get my shit out and be like, can you structure this?
No, that's what I'm really focused on, is making sure the ideas are articulated the right way. And then somebody can sauce it up a little bit, you know, make sure that it's not fucking wrong.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that come to fruition, man. That's dope. Obviously, the album just came out. So you got music out, brand new music. Yep. Is there anything else people should be looking out for? Shows, any other projects you got coming up?
I mean, yeah, I'm working on a bunch of shit. I'd say just, you know, sit with the album, consume it, digest it, allow it to, you know, have its moment. Get ready for the book for sure. And then whatever comes next, I'm kind of just like really trying to embrace the moment and this journey and not try to get too far ahead of myself. I'm trying to, you know, stay grounded, stay level-headed, stay balanced, not too high, not too low, and just let life happen, bro. Like to me, I seek fulfillment. Like there's no monetary number that I'm looking for. There's no award or amount of streams that will make me happy. What makes me happy is doing what I love and that fulfillment of making real impact. So I know as long as I stay the course and I'm aligned with my, you know, my God and my spirit, I know that everything else will just fall in line. The universe is working with me, not against me, you know?
Yeah. Does the artist side of you and the human side of you help each other out?
Oh, yeah. I'd say it's intertwined.
Man, actually, one of your bars on, what was the first song on the album?
Fahey Building?
Fahey Building, yeah. I think you say, I want my flowers while I'm alive.
Yeah. I don't want no Instagram post when I die. I want you to show me that you love me while I'm here. I would like all my flowers in person. Want every moment to be worth it. Like, you know, like I was reflecting on that heavy, like, because every time a motherfucker dies, it's like, people that, bro, that's the shit right there. That's why after these past couple of years, bro, I don't even post really when people die. Because, like, that shit is meant to be private, bro. A lot of this shit is supposed to be, you're supposed to grieve in private. Like, all this shit is for the attention, bro, and the internet. Like, somebody dies, it's cool to share your experience with them, but, like, dog, if someone dies and you make an Instagram post and now you just made their whole death about you, like, that's selfish and weird, bro. Like, and I don't really fuck with that shit anymore. And, like, I don't want to die to be appreciated.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the way most people's shit plays out. It's such a silly concept. When you pass, everyone wants to talk about how great you are. But when you're chilling, there's like, oh, he's just chilling. Or he, she, they, whatever.
Well, like, what really fucking bothers me, is, like, when someone passes away and there's, like, 500 girls, like, oh, he just messaged me the other day talking, like, shut the fuck up, dude.
Yeah, it's like airing out your business. You're like, bruh.
Don't nobody give a fuck. You got a whole BM, a girl, a family, and they're talking about he just liked 5 of my pictures yesterday. Shut up, dude. Nobody cares.
On this subject too, which I really thought about a lot with the Nipsey shit. I don't think anyone's last breaths should be on the fucking internet. That is so crazy to me.
No, but that's the world we live in now.
It's so nuts, dude. You shouldn't be able to watch anyone take their last breath on the internet. That's fucking nuts.
It's happening with everybody now, bro, though. Like, there's cameras everywhere. You can't... This is why I think being a criminal is so fucking stupid. Because there's cameras everywhere, dude. What do you think you're getting away with?
Yeah, I got a camera for my dog.
Yeah, dude, people that still rob banks blow my mind.
It's 2022, bro. What are you doing? There's a camera everywhere. And if there's not a camera right at the crime scene, you have to go somewhere. And the route that you take to go somewhere, you're on camera.
Yeah.
Somewhere, there's cameras everywhere, bro. If you're a criminal right now, you're capping, bro.
For real, dude. Oh, shit, man. But, yeah, I'm excited for the book. I want to read that. The album's fire. I just want to let you know overall. Album's super fire.
Thank you.
I'm gonna cue up this beat and we're gonna get back with some bars. So we'll be right back. Let me cue this beat up.
Let's do it.
All right, yeah, I got this beat queued up now. About to get these bars. You ready?
Yup, let's do it.
All right, let's get it.
Can you turn it up a little bit more? Yeah. Young Logan. 16364L. 8MATIK records with dreams come true. Hate on my face, I'll be the proof. I'll be juice. Yeah. Young Logan, I made it out poverty. I defied the odds and probabilities. I'm a one-of-a-kind anomaly. Only one real love surrounding me. What I value, loyalty, honesty. If you love me, then why would you lie to me? So I hate that shit, man, it bothered me. You ran off with my heart like a robbery. I took my time with this shit and I did all the shit that I said I would do. You just a hater, you hate to see me doing better than you. Tired explaining, I never get through. See, I've been working on empathy too. Life been training my energy though. I find peace in melodies though. It helped me bury my skeletons. I got some demons and I've been addressing them. Maximum effort, I hope that it resonate. Voice in my head like don't kill the messenger. All of them doubts irrelevant. Soon as I walk in the room, I'm the elephant. I ride around like the president. See how my life getting elegant. Snakes in the grass, I know they malevolent. I'm a decade and I got stamina. From a city of killers, scavengers. From a city of criminals, animals. Where the kids get raised by savages. 600 homicide average. And they gentrify, try and balance it. And romanticize like a fantasy. Where the politicians get amnesty. And to call them out is insanity. I don't get no fuck, they gon' answer me. I don't know if y'all got another guest coming through, but I swear shit, no one come after me. Boy, I run this shit like an athlete. When I freestyle, it's a masterpiece. And it's authentic, no fallacy. Getting to the cash, casually. And I'm almost straight financially. But I think I need more for my vanity. When I drop, they acting frantically. Showing love, but it's always passively. Yeah, showing love, but it's always passively. I know it's a marathon, not a race. Where ain't nobody catching me. Young Logan.
Hell yeah.
Shit, man. Ain't nothing more to say for this episode. That's episode 157 of the Face Value Podcast. Thank you again for your time. We appreciate you, man.
Appreciate y'all.